The Xfinity Series, the Cup Series, all head to Darlington, and we get you ready from a betting edge next on the NASCAR Betting Preview Show. What is up, everybody? Welcome to the NASCAR Betting Preview Show. The series, they're heading to Darlington. I just came from Daytona. I got Daytona on the brain, so I apologize for that terrible intro. But we are back, boys. It's good to see you. Phil, the Full Take with Phil podcast, Ryan at wintherace.info. So I'm really excited to be talking with these guys. I saw a lot of comments already in the chat, so that's really cool to see people filing in early. Marcus, got to give you a shout out. You were the first an hour and 20 minutes early, nonetheless, saying that I'm the first one here. So thanks for your support, Marcus, and really looking forward to helping you and many others this weekend as the series, like you said, regular season ends, boys. So we got the Xfinity Series, we got the Cup Series all coming to an end this week. And Phil, I didn't get to talk to you last week. We had a busy week, and obviously the Cup cars, Xfinity cars were in Daytona, trucks were in Milwaukee. How is it from a betting perspective for you?
Pretty solid. Daytona, we came out in the positive, which was good. I love the fact that we continued to do well head-to-heads in Daytona. So we went 3 for 4 last week. So very happy about that, continuing that positivity. And then the truck race, we pretty much just came away like just above water in the truck race. But that was thanks to the fact that we had Riggs top 5, 4-1. Shout out to the folks who had him for the long shot dub. Really interesting. And I'm starting to think that what we saw in the trucks, where somebody who just misses the playoffs wins the first race of the playoffs, I think we might see that next week. So we'll keep that in mind as we go forward.
Okay, so just put a little feather in your cap there, a little tease. So thank you, Phil, for that. Ryan, good to talk to you again. Good to see you. How did everything go last week for you from a betting perspective, whether it was DFS, betting, whatever it was? How did everything go for you? Oh, Ryan, you are muted, my friend. Oh, there's always one. So it's all good, Ryan.
No, I'm not muted. I was actually frozen, and then I came back and I was muted.
Oh,
I muted myself because when it was frozen, I was cussing out my internet. So now I'm back.
Oh, that's interesting. 5 minutes ago, I was joking with you saying, "Is your internet going to go haywire on us?" You blamed it on maybe me, but all right, let's see. There we go again. So how are you though, Ryan?
I'm back.
How'd you do last week?
I'm doing good. I only had one bet the whole weekend, which was nice. It was Riggs over Honeycutt, and I put 2 units on it, and it worked. So I didn't want to bet Daytona. I was in the Cape with my family on vacation. I just wanted to chill, put the kids to bed, watch the race, hang out, and that's what I did. Had some nice mixed drinks, and it was fun. Played some DFS. Nothing big there, but Win the Race had some big hits, like 20K hits. So that was pretty cool. Good weekend. Yeah. And then the truck race came and I was like, man, I freaking love Riggs, but it's like, I was just comfortable having the one bet.
Yep. Well, I'm glad that it worked out for you and everybody at Win the Race, and really again appreciate you joining us and being here tonight. And so many people hit some big shots. I was really pulling for Kyle Busch. Like I said, I was at the track, so I had to have a little something on somebody, and Kyle Busch was that name. I really want to shout out Mark Harris, Skybox NASCAR. Really appreciate him, his hospitality. I tell you what, boys, I don't know if anybody does it better than what Mark and his crew does. I met his dad. He came by. Mark and I went out to one of the local liquor stores to buy some beer, and he probably bought 120, 144 cases of beer, or beers. I forget how many cases total it was. Somebody do quick math. But what they were doing is they were sticking every beer up on the fence right behind, and I contributed a little bit to it, but those boys were like, it was water to them. Now it was Busch Light, so of course it was water, but they know how to have a good time. So it was a lot of fun. Appreciate Mark. Appreciate the hospitality. Really a lot of fun. And anybody that I saw at the racetrack Friday or Saturday, really want to give a shout out to them. That was a huge success. Vivid EV is our newest sponsor to the front stretch team, and was able to host them this weekend, Joe Wells and that team over there. So just really appreciate their support. And boys, we're going to be talking a little gambling tonight. So, Phil, I actually want to kick it off with you first because, we had Harrison Burton win the race. We talked about it a few weeks ago, like who's going to win, who's going to get in the playoffs, this and that. Well, we got a guy that's in the playoffs in Harrison Burton, and I didn't get to listen to your show yet. I've been away all day yesterday, all day today. So what are your quick thoughts on a guy like that making the playoffs? Good or bad?
That's a good question. So I think the regular season is really fun, and I think this is the exact reason why they have this situation is so we talk about it on these shows, they talk about it on the TV and the radio, like I think Daytona, anybody can win, and now it has been proven like they mean anybody. So yeah, good for Harrison Burton. I have made a lot of money fading him on super speedways because he hasn't ever really got it done. He's performed well, but can't finish the race. He finished the race and he won it well. Like he beat Kyle Busch. So I was, not making any money on Burton, but I was like blown away and left Daytona kind of satisfied as a fan. Like that was pretty cool. So is it great that he's taking up a playoff spot? When we get to the playoffs, probably not, but it makes the regular season fun. I think the regular season structure, like the guys on the teardown, they said what I feel like the regular season is really put together well. I like the win and you're in situation. And, shout out Kyle Busch. He made me look silly because on this show a couple weeks ago, I was ranting and saying anybody in that position would wreck whoever in desperation get in the playoffs. He didn't do it. He raced fair and lost, and ends up. He made me look silly. So I thought all of that, the race coming to an end under green, was really satisfying. So shout out Harrison Burton and Kyle Busch. Good race.
Well, as I was walking down pit road prior to the race, prior to the national anthem, I stopped by the 21 car. I looked at it and I was telling Joe Wells of Vivid EV, I said, that car won't finish tonight. Well, that car damn near broke me because I was on Kyle Busch and Harrison Burton I saw Kyle Busch go. So last lap, I was in turn 1 and I just watched him go by and I thought to myself, there he goes. Watched him. He had the lead. I was like, anybody can wreck. This is good for me right now. But then I also thought, kind of looks like he had a big lead. And sure enough, then the replay showed. I'm just listening to the radio because I couldn't see the track down in 3 and 4. And all of a sudden, MRN's like, and he gets Burton gets the greatest push ever from Brett Slaff, and it's gone, and now it's over. So I got in the Jeep and I left. But it was a lot of fun, and I saw that McDowell wreck right in front of me. It didn't look as bad in person, like at all. Like you kind of saw him get a little sideways, but you didn't know. The replay showed was way worse than what it looked like in person. But holy cow, that was pretty wild to see right there. So Ryan, what about you? Like, what do you think about how the playoff structure is looking? I'm actually going to pop up what the playoffs are currently, but what do you think about the playoff structure with Harrison Burton now in it? Can he go to Atlanta and maybe advance his way up a little bit?
No, I mean, I think we're being way too nice here. It sucks that he's in the playoffs. It sucks. He shouldn't be in the playoffs at all. That doesn't. Winning in is a broken system, and he proved exactly why. I mean, he should not be in the playoffs at all. Thank God Dylan's not in the playoffs too. We couldn't even. I wouldn't even watch. It was Cindric, Burton, and freaking all. Like, how can you be 30th in points or worse and be in the playoffs? It just doesn't make any sense to me at all. I don't get it.
I'll have a rebuttal to that. How can you expect to be in the playoffs and not win a regular season race? Like if you're a guy like Chastain, you're a guy like Wallace, like I see what you're saying, but win a race.
Well, like because there's a lot of
deserve to be there to win a race.
There's a lot of fast cars that have a lot of shit happen that's out of their hands. Like look at Truex, for example. Like this guy is cursed. sometimes it's his own fault, but a lot of times it's not his fault. So I don't know. Like, there's a lot of fast cars there, like that cars that run up front way more often than not. Like, there's no one that could tell me you'd rather see Harrison Burton in a playoff race than Truex, Gibbs, Buescher, Wallace, Chastain, even Kyle Busch, even Chase Briscoe, anyone like that. Like that, these guys would be.
Yeah,
go ahead, Phil.
He's cutting out for me.
Yeah, go ahead.
I would say I think he's right, but I think you can also compartmentalize like the win and you're in regular season mentality. Like I think that part of it hypes up the importance of winning races. Like you're not having guys trying to get points days. You're not having guys laying back. You're having guys go for it. You're having guys who are totally out of it with an opportunity. So until the regular season comes to an end, like you're still alive. And that to me makes the racing better. It makes everyone else better, the product better. So because they know that they could be out. If you're Ross Chastain, you got to perform because you could get sniped by someone from the back, like Harrison Burton. Like you need to perform. And I can't, I can't get big NASCAR got Ryan. That's funny. So I see what he's saying. Like the playoffs, it sucks that we have a guy in the playoffs, multiple guys in the playoffs this year that have no chance, but it is what it is. Like be better, win a race. Same thing every year.
Let's talk about a guy that may or may not make the playoffs next year. I want to get Phil's quick hot takes. Maybe we can get it that way. SVG goes to the 88 Trackhouse. Is signing SVG. What are your thoughts? You're shaking your head. No, you don't like Kiwi.
Look, I'm going to tell you this right now.
Tell me straight up.
If so, on my podcast this week, every now and then I have a segment at the very end called Phil's Fired Up. This week, I went on for like 15 minutes about this topic. Not this topic specifically, Trackhouse. And it was, more so about what Trackhouse did to Zane Smith. I think what they did to Zane Smith is criminal. I think, they're a Mickey Mouse. I called them a clickbait company because they're just hiring drivers for clicks. They have no intention of winning. They showed that with SVG. Look, you want to hire a guy to win one race a year, make the playoffs, just like these jokers we're talking about, just to make the playoffs and then do nothing. Great. Trackhouse proved they have no intention of being a real organization. So go listen to the end of my podcast because I go on and on and on and I don't stop. I probably said a little too much, but I'm not a fan of the SVG move. I think, it was pretty obvious that they promised something to Zane and threw him over to that Spire car, screwed him. And, would have to assume the promise was a third ride or Daniel Suarez's ride, and then screwed him for SVG. So can't imagine how anyone in the garage would take that organization seriously. So that's my take on SVG. It's kind of less to do with SVG and more to do with Trackhouse being a Mickey Mouse bullshit organization.
Okay, so there's what Phil has to say. What do you think, Brian? Welcome back to the show. Unmute yourself when you're ready. And then what do you think about SVG coming in the series next year?
Dude, I caught the end of that. Someone's ready to draft. You're going to draft a winner tonight, Phil.
I'm ready, dude. I'm ready.
Up.
Phil's locked in.
I switched internet connections, so I'm sorry. Hopefully this one's better. I mean, I agree with a lot of what Phil said there. So what are we back to? We're back to 6 roads next year. Did you see the leak of next year's schedule that was out today? That kind of how this came up. Yeah. I don't know. I think that's 6 more roads. You're bringing AJ and SVG in full time to the Cup Series. It's just kind of the direction they're going.
Might be more.
Again, it's like winning in, so they want people to win and get in the playoffs. That's what they want.
Yeah. It's interesting. I think. Do what now?
Get a new face into the playoffs or something. I don't know.
I think SVG
keep Roval in there too.
Oh yeah, I think SVG is great for the sport, and it'll be really interesting. Phil, I understand what you're saying. Let's go back to Spire real quick because I'm curious. Like, don't they have 3? They have 3 charters for next year, right? Like 3 Cup charters? Yes, no. Am I wrong?
I don't know off the top of my head.
Okay.
I would have to pull up Chasky, but
I just didn't know, because I was trying to think where Zane lands. Like, where does Zane go? Because I know Ford is unhappy with him since he left there and then went to Chevy, and now he's back looking for a ride. Chevy could help him somehow, some way, but what vacancy is out there for them to help? Does he go? What series does he go down into? Does he go back to where it all began? What's that famous? Go back to wherever it started back at JRM. Like, does he go back there?
That's part of my argument here, Derek, is that they screwed him. They signed him to this deal when he was most marketable. He was at the highest, like midsummer last year. He was coming off a truck championship. He could sign wherever he wanted. They signed this deal with him, and then they screwed him at a point in the season where he has no options. SVG won Sonoma months ago. If they knew they were going to do this, they should have done it back then, because at least he had a chance to sign with somebody. There's no rides left. I would have loved to see him in the 21 Wood Brothers car. I think if Ford took him back, that would have been perfect for him.
Mm-hmm.
So, they just did him so dirty. And, I just can't see how, SVG, good for the sport. I don't know. I don't even know if I buy that. I just, why is a road course ringer getting a full-time ride a good thing for the sport? Like, at least AJ Allmendinger has the ability to drive in some of these, oval tracks. It just, I don't know, man. I'm making this more about, I'm going on longer than I should, but it's just, it's too much for me to handle.
Anytime we can bring a Phil's Fired Up into the NASCAR Betting Preview Show, it's good content. So
somebody said short-term gain SVG for long-term pain. That's correct. Like, Zane is a long-term investment if you want a real championship potential driver, and they clearly don't.
Okay, so moving away then from SVG, and now I know what I'm not going to get Phil for Christmas this year. I will have to return that. And moving into something else, Ryan, I want to kick it over to you. So let's look at Xfinity a little bit here. So Xfinity's they got their last weekend coming up. Daniel Dye, I saw he was in the comments. I think somebody thought maybe you were talking about him on your pod, but Daniel Dye going to be full-time next year. Anything, Ryan, we should expect from your side of what you've been able to see maybe in the Sim Center, or maybe just conversations in your Discord, which I highly recommend. Anybody that's out there that isn't a subscriber to Win the Race, go get subscribed. Tell them that the NASCAR Betting Preview Show sent you. Anything from the Xfinity side that maybe is good intel to give the people listening right now?
For this weekend's race?
Yeah.
Or in general. Yeah. I mean,
how about
for this weekend, the odds we have so many studs racing in this race that the odds are kind of slashed. But I noticed like guys like Gregson are, long shots in this race. And I don't think that car hasn't had race winning speed, but he's been up there. I mean, a couple things happen. Might be worth throwing something on him. I haven't looked to see if there was even like top fives out or anything. When I was doing all my stuff for the show earlier today, like nothing was out. Like Fanatics didn't even have like top fives or top tens out yet. Caesars didn't. I don't know if anyone knows if they do now. I'll pull it up while we're on here.
Well, while you do that, Ryan, I'll just go over kind of for the people listening, because the entry list came out not too long ago, was prior to obviously today, but Joey Logano is going to be racing in the 15, Christopher Bell's in the 20, Corey Heim coming down since trucks aren't racing for the next 3 weeks, he's in the 26. You got Ross Chastain. Did I say Chase Elliott yet? If not, he's in the 17. Ross Chastain's in the 92. You mentioned him, Noah Gragson. He's in the 30. And you got obviously SVG's racing for Phil. And it'll be really interesting to kind of see what happens with all these guys up here and how the odds are made. Did you find anything from an odds perspective, Ryan? Did some of these books have them listed? Top fives and so forth?
Well, I just pulled up too. Like, so I see, for example, like Jesse Love is minus 115 against Logano, both minus 115 on Caesars. But it's like Love was a top 10 car all race at Darlington. I don't know. I mean, I know it's Logano, but the 15 is just like kind of blah. So I don't know. I'm gonna dive more into that and probably put some stuff in my Discord channel that I find, because I do see some things that look pretty interesting. I want to dive into it more before I make any bets, but that one really popped off to me. I might take Love over Logano.
Yeah, well, I Appreciate kind of talking that in real time then. But yeah, it's going to be a lot of fun. It's going to be, I always love when guys are dipping down, especially they can't anymore when the playoffs begin. So it's why a lot of them are just getting a couple extra reps going into the longest race or one of the longest races of the year, the Southern 500. There's going to be 9 to 10 pit stops. It's going to be action packed. I was just watching the replay last night as I was doing some work, and it's one of those races that I absolutely love. I love the Coke 600. I love the Southern 500. I love those races that bring in an extra element. It can be frustrating at times for us as bettors, but it also can be very rewarding when a guy, maybe you're betting against Chris Bell and he speeds on pit road, or Denny Hamlin. So it can bring different elements out in that way. Phil, I'm going to ask you first, and then we'll go into Ride or Fade. But the Monday morning headline, regular season's over. What's that Monday morning headline going to read?
Tyler Reddick clinches the points championship. Starting the playoff on fire with the win.
Okay.
Heading into the playoffs on fire with the win.
Heading into the playoffs on fire for the win. I'm going to pop up what that is right now. And what about you, Ryan? Like Monday morning headline reads what in your estimation?
Well, I'll start with this just because now you got me diving into Xfinity a little bit.
Yeah, please.
The Noah Gragson's 6-1 for a top 5, which I really like. The last 2 times he's raced in this car, he's finished 5th and 6th. I know the field is more loaded, but he's also really freaking good here. That's very interesting. But I'll say the Monday morning headline for the Cup Series is Larson finds himself in victory lane. I believe he won the summer race last year too, so I think he does it again.
One thing I forgot to ask, and then I swear we'll dive into it. But NASCAR is going to Mexico City. Phil, I'll just go to you. What do you think about NASCAR going down, Xfinity and Cup going to Mexico City next June?
I mean, I get it, understand, but I say do less. Like just do less and be good at that. You know what I mean? This expansion type stuff. Like, we've got stuff we can do better on the schedule now. So I just feel like it's a lot. I get it though. I understand what they're trying to do, grow their sport, more international deal. But I think the logistics of it, I saw people like shout out Mark in Mississippi. Like he was tweeting at people all day about the logistics of like how this is actually going to work.
Dude.
It makes me kind of think like, the Eagles next week are going down to Brazil, and like, I've got people in our area like talking about, okay, is it worth going? Is it not? Like, no, it's not worth going. Like that's crazy. And it's like, why are they doing that? So same thing here. Like I'll never really understand why these teams feel like they have to. But we'll see how it plays out.
Yeah. What about you, Ron? What do you think about NASCAR going back to Mexico City next year? And then I swear we'll move on.
I don't know. I think it'll kind of be. I always like when they go to new places. I just hope that they make it to where the racing can be a little better. That's the only thing. I mean, I don't know. That's just what I think. I don't really care where they're going. I just want them to be able to race each other. That's it.
Yeah.
They can go to fucking outer space. I don't care. I just want them to be able to race the cars against each other.
Yeah, that would be cool. All right, I swear we're gonna move into Ride or Fade. Hot Pass Podcast. He says Derek and I have an announcement coming. Shh, it is a secret. You'll see the announcement next week. So we'll just tease that for another day. But make sure you subscribe to the podcast and subscribe to In Between Media. See what happens with that. So San Diego would be awesome. I agree, Big Ross. I would love a reason to fly out to San Diego. That would be a lot of fun. Who is it? Brian Twining said Phil is being a big party pooper tonight. So Phil, getting some we're getting you fired up. I mean, you got a draft coming up. You got the Penn State. We were just talking about it before we went live. We're a little anxious with Penn State going and playing West Virginia. Your Eagles are going to go 0-1 to my Packers next week. We should probably do another side bet. Am I getting 7 points this time? Jordan Love playing. Do I get 7 points? We did that last time. I Venmoed you early and I got my wish. So let's move into Ride or Fade, because I'm very curious now 24 minutes in, and appreciate you guys all listening, where we are at from a betting perspective when it comes to head-to-heads. Phil, I'll start with you first.
Well, I'll tell you this, and Ryan said this earlier in our text chain, and I don't know if this is what he was referring to, but I was fully prepared to talk about Ryan Blaney plus 120 on Caesars over Martin Truex Jr., and that has just been crushed. I thought that value was great. It's now minus 145 for Blaney's side. So I can't talk about that, but I can give a quick shout out. Like, there's a reason why I was looking at Blaney. It's because Truex has nothing inside the top 15 in the next gen car at Darlington. So maybe look in that direction, who he's playing against. I'll throw a bet out here. It's minus 115. He's a slight underdog to a minus 120 Ross Chastain. I'm going to go with Bubba Wallace this weekend. Obviously, these are two guys that are battling for points, so it makes it interesting. We've got the right side tires that are the intermediate tracks, that the same package they ran in the spring race. And so that brings in, sort of the intermediate tracks. You look at the iFantasy race charts from what we've had in 2024. If you're looking at those tracks, Chastain has a little bit of an advantage with average finish and green flag speed. But in this particular situation, I'm looking at Darlington, and I'm specifically looking at the last 5, the next gen races at Darlington, because it's all Bubba Wallace here. It's not even close. Speed ranking shows that they're kind of like two ships in the night. If you just look at the speed, and there's 5 races, Chastain was good, like further back, but then has dropped, and Bubba has just figured out this track. So Chastain's average finish is 19.0 with 2 top 10s. Bubba 11.0 with 1 top 5, 4 top 10s. He's 4-1 head to head versus Ross Chastain at Darlington. And Bubba has put together 4 straight top 10s. And as we'll probably talk about, Southern 500, long race, a lot of carnage. We're used to starting the playoffs, and you're seeing playoff drivers drop like flies. Somehow, some way, Bubba Wallace has been good at Darlington, whether it's the Southern 500 or the spring race. So even when Ross had a good finish in the spring, 11th, Bubba had a 7th place finish and beat him. So minus 115 as an underdog, slight underdog. I like this one.
Okay, so you like that one. What about you, Ryan? What do you think about what Phil just said there?
Yeah, I ride with that all day.
You ride.
I think mine is probably going to be. I won the Xfinity one I gave out because that one's still live. So I think I will take Love over Logano after looking at it a little more. But the one I wrote up, so coincidentally, it got smoked out to minus 145 as well. It's Buescher over Kyle Busch. It's on DraftKings. We still have that fair at minus 154 in the Sim Center. So we took it at minus 120 when it first came out. Definitely was a better rated bet then, but still showing some value on it. Just looking at everything that I look at, whether the intermediate package, true performance ranks, the adjusted speed on those tracks, which I like to do versus my true performance ranks just to see how it adds up. I did that for like whatever the comps would be. I know there's no real comp to Darlington, but maybe like banked with higher wear, that type of track. Buescher just beats him everywhere. And then overall, I had him ranked 10th and Kyle Busch ranked 17th. If you look at Greg's front runners on Win the Race, which is just how many times guys have been running the top 10, 5, 3, their fastest laps led, all that stuff. But he does a true average running position as well. If you look at just the races this year at Darlington, Vegas, and Kansas, Buescher's second in true average running position behind only Kyle Larson. So I just think Buescher's got a lot of potential here. Then you look at the spring race, RFK qualified 2 and 3. Buescher was very strong in that race. And obviously Brad was too. So I think RFK is onto something here. Typically guys that show up fast at Darlington do it again. So I like Buescher here over Kyle Busch, and I'd probably still take the minus 145 if you didn't get it.
Okay, so there you go. I don't know if it was you, Ryan, or somebody else, but somebody mentioned one time about RFK, just starting to get stronger over the last 2 years. They get stronger throughout the end of the season. We remember 2 years ago, Buescher won at Bristol. And then last year, Buescher got so hot. And it just felt like that team was coming together. So maybe this is a time to be peaking for this. I know Brad K had an eventful Daytona and was able to come back and then went sliding through the grass. So just going to be interesting to see how those two going into next week at Atlanta, how they really position themselves. I will be in Atlanta for that kickoff to the playoffs. So if anybody's going to be there, please let me know. Would love to say hello and just kind of take some time to chat. So looking forward to that event next weekend. But let's move into anything else there, Ryan, or anything else there, Phil, before I move on.
No, I'm good
to
there.
position props. Let's move
You
into
ride,
position
you ride, Phil? Are you riding?
I'm riding.
You riding, Phil?
I'm riding.
Yeah, damn. Let's go, dog.
We riding. Ooh,
I had Bush. I mean, you're
Ooh.
moving into position props. I had 17 in a position play, so we won't have to go back into that as well.
Okay.
Beautiful.
So, Ryan, kick us off with a position prop then. Top 10,
Well, I'll
5,
stick
3,
with
whatever you got.
Yeah, I'll stick with Ford. I got Josh Berry top 10 on FanDuel at plus 210. This one goes against our simulations. It's more of a gut play mixed in with some stats that I looked at. But he's always been absolutely fine here in Xfinity. He doesn't have any wins or anything like that, but this is one of those tracks where like all the studs come back. So I wouldn't necessarily expect him to beat them on this track. Like Denny raced, Larson, yeah, Elliott, came back. It's like he's always racing good guys here. But he had a lot of good finishes, top fives, top 10 type finishes. He's always up there. In the spring, he qualified 33rd, but I watched it back today and he was like 0.3 or 0.4 seconds ahead of Briscoe, who was at the top of Group B. When through turns 1 and 2, he goes into turn 3 and 4. They don't say anything on the broadcast about it at all, but he lost like a second or a second and a half somehow. Don't know what happened, but just was weird because he was obviously fast that race. I had him as the 8th best in adjusted speed that race. He came all the way up and finished 3rd. And we know what this team can do here. He's not Harvick. We all know that. No one's trying to say that he is. But this team knows Darlington. They set the cars up to be fast. They have great strategy here. This is a place where Harvick had top 5s in 11 of his 14 races at Darlington that he finished. He finished 11 of them, or finished 14 out of 15. 11 top 5s. That's insane. Insane for anybody. All as a member of this Stewart-Haas team. So I just think you add that along with the fact that they already kind of proved it and brought a blazing fast car here in the spring. I think they can do it again. And he would only have to top 10, a third of the time for this to pay off. So, yeah, I put a unit on plus 210, top 10.
Okay. So I like that. That's a really good call out. What about you, Phil?
I got a little bit more, too. Oh, sorry. I didn't realize
this.
Give
it to me, Ryan. Let's hear about
if you
a
look
little
at
more.
like some higher bank tracks that saw some tire wear, he had a top 10 car at Bristol. I know it's completely different, but just higher bank wear, 14th at Dover, finished 15th at Kansas, 3rd at Darlington, like we just said, and 10th at Charlotte. So he's always kind of right there on this track type this year. I don't know. Give me Barry. He only has to do it a third of the time. Let's roll.
I like it. Let's roll.
right.
Everybody that's in for Barry, give me a 4 in the chat. I want to see that. 4's up.
I'm on the clock right now, boys. So McCaffrey, Bijan, Hill, Chase, Brees Hall, and Saquon got 6 seconds left. CeeDee Lamb?
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, he's healthy.
Yeah,
he hasn't done anything. All right. So what do you think, Phil, from position props? Not NFL position, fantasy position props, but NASCAR. What do you got?
Yeah, so I saw I won some people back on the last one based off of the conversation here. I may lose you, but I think that there is some reason to get down with. I think there is something to get down with Kyle Busch for a top 10. He's plus 120 for a top 10 on MGM. He's like minus 185 on other, like, I don't know if it's Caesars or DraftKings, whatever. He's minus money on most places, plus 120. I think there's something here with Kyle Busch. I understand like the outright, or nothing kind of deal. But first of all, if momentum's a thing, he's got it because he finished top 5 at Michigan, taking a shot, going for it. And what we saw at Daytona, Daytona is a wild card race, but he was still able to keep together and get it. I think they had to be feeling good. The organization feeling good out of Richmond because they put together a decent car. So I think this is solid enough. And, he's got decent enough numbers at Darlington. I mean, if you go back the last 10 races, 2 top 5s, 4 top 10s in the next gen car, he only has 1 top 10, but he's 8th in driver rating. He finished 11th last year. So like he's right there. This isn't out of the question. So I'm gonna roll with Kyle Busch because I think they're gonna shoot for the stars, and I think what I said on the pod: shoot for the stars, shoot for the moon, you end up in the stars, is the saying. So we'll see how it happens there. I'm up again on the clock, by the way, so I'm gonna figure this out. I can get Jefferson again. If whoever said Jefferson, I can go back-to-back wide receivers if that's crazy.
What do you think, Ryan?
Who else is there?
Let's see. Garrett Wilson, Pacheco, Travis Etienne, like all the running backs.
Yeah, I like Garrett Wilson more than JJ. Wow, really? I think. Okay. I don't know. I mean, Darnold scares the shit out of me, but he's going to be the only one in that offense. So maybe you do take JJ. Either way, you can't go wrong.
All right. Well, I'm being told Jefferson from Kyle, so we're going to go
take JJ. Go with go with the guys.
All right.
So there you go. So then
here we go.
I like it. Mixing a little fantasy football talk. I couldn't tell you who to draft, so you're not going to hear any input from me. But I do want to touch on, which is a perfect segue, Phil. This is why you're professional in your own right. So I want to touch on, you mentioned about Kyle Busch, and I'm going to give you the floor here in a minute, Phil. But there were two comments made, one by Brian Twining, who said Busch outright or bust this week, and Big Ross was saying about KB getting a lot of love in betting markets the last couple of weeks. And Kyle Busch has been a guy that's been on my mind, just figuring out how to play him. I love his mentality approach. I really like what he was kind of the vibe he was giving off going into Daytona. It seems like his head is in the right space. And now you go to a place where 2 years ago when he was in the 18 in the playoffs and had the lead and the engine expired. And then a half a lap later, MTJ's engine expired, both under caution. Now you're going to a place where Kyle Busch is pretty damn good here. And I don't know what his stats are off the top of my head when he's been at RCR at Darlington per se. But this is a guy that you kind of have a little bit of a wild card situation where the strategy can come into it. Guys that are going to run well, guys that are going to practice well, qualify well, will be up front. But guys that are really good here, we've not mentioned at all, and I don't really anticipate that we did a whole lot, but Eric Jones, pretty damn good here. Multi-time winner at Darlington. You don't just win Darlington by mistake. So, outright perspective, is it worth a flyer in your opinion, Phil?
On a Kyle Busch?
Yeah, KFB.
I mean, I agree with. I think it was Brian that said it, outright or nothing. I mean, obviously, I made a case for a position play because I think it's going to be tough for him to get it done all the way. That's why I want something on him if he comes up just short. But I mean, I could see that. I mean, they're going to need a lot of things to come together for an
imagine
outright.
That.
So it would be, I mean, it would be quite a miracle if that were to happen. But they've had decent enough speed at Darlington, I guess you could make a case. And, since they fired Andy Petrie, they've been putting together some decent cars. So I think there's a path, but to me, it's like a sprinkle, if you want to go down that path.
Now, I just found it in the next gen stats. He's got a 21.6 average finish.
See, 40 to 1. That's I would do 40 to 1.
It's wild. Okay. That would be crazy if he wins it. I'm going to just, so we can clip this. Kyle wins this weekend, goes to Atlanta, wins where he should have won, and spring wins again, advancing the playoffs. Ryan, what about you from an outright perspective? You like Kyle at all or not?
No. I mean, he was not even a top 20 car here earlier this year. No thanks. I know they've been better and kind of popping a little bit, but I took that matchup against him. I'm not a big believer. The Sims have it fair around 65 to 1, so I'm just not a fan.
Yep. And what about outright? What's the best price on the board in your estimation right now? That remains on the board, I should say, because you popped a couple things and they're
that remains on the board is tough, but I will pull up let me just pull up the Sim Center right now and see what we have the best on. So probably the best right now would be either Ty Gibbs or Busher, if you can find them close to 20 as possible.
Yeah.
Okay. Those two guys.
I like.
I think they're some books have them as 18 still, maybe, but
okay.
We even have value on both when they're at 16. So
okay.
I'd probably do that. Ty Gibbs fair around 11 and Busher fair around 16.
And Phil, I didn't mean to hijack your portion of the conversation with the outrights. Was there an outright specifically you wanted to touch on?
Well, Ryan hit it. I mean, I like Ty Gibbs this week. I got him at 16 to 1 on MGM, throwing a half a unit on that. I mean, he's just that second place finish earlier of the year. I think that proves, we're kind of through the learning phase. I mean, he, 15th, 16th, 21st, first few races here, comes out, he runs second. Obviously, there was some craziness at the end of that race to make that a thing, but he was still very fast. He led 34 laps. He was third in green flag speed. So I think he's fast enough. And then you look at the intermediate tracks. I mean, he's third in the speed rank, fourth in average finish on those tracks this year, 3 top 5s, 5 for 7 in top 10. So, I mean, I think he's pretty legit. So 16-1, I thought was pretty good for somebody like Ty Gibbs.
Yeah, I saw a comment here made about Gibbs maybe being a little overvalued in most books to Brian Twining. Kyle Roberts saying Tyrone gets it done. So let's move into the best bets and best value on the board. Again, I know a lot of things got sniped here the last couple of hours and day, but wanted to see what you guys think, what remains out there for the people listening via the podcast or YouTube or wherever they're listening via the replay. Thank you again for doing that. Make sure you subscribe across the board to each and every place you're listening. So Phil, I'll actually kick it off to you first. Where's as you got your JBL headset? I like that, by the way. Where you kicking off the best bet on the board? What are you sticking to the most this week besides SVG shouldn't be in Cup next year, according to you?
Well, my internet's crapping out here, so I'm starting to freak out. So I'll throw something completely off the rails and let the chat just eat me alive. But 14-1 for a top 10. We hit a long shot top 10 last week with John Hunter Nemechek, but this week, top 10 on Justin Haley. Just a sprinkle, 14-1. This guy in the last 5 races in the next gen car has 3 top 10s. So, when you see a situation like that, somehow, some way, he's able to battle through the attrition and keep himself alive.
Mm-hmm.
He's got a better average finish than like Denny Hamlin, Chase Elliott, Eric Jones. Like, it's just wild. So, I see that and I'm like, yeah, sure. I'll throw a little something on that to have some fun and we'll see how it works out.
I like it. Haley getting a little. Haley comes up before Byron does this week. Didn't have that on my bingo card. What about you, Ryan?
Well, I actually just saw Fanatics drop their props. I just pulled it up and there's Blaney minus 115 over Kyle Busch. I think I'm going to take that too and just have Buescher and Blaney against Kyle Busch this weekend. Not a fan of Kyle. Okay.
There you go with that. So is that can we put that down as your best bet then? Is that where you're leaning here with Fanatics?
Yeah, I actually would have that. I personally would have that rated higher than my Buescher over Busch.
Yep.
So,
okay. All right. Look at that in real time. I like it. So, okay. Let me see if there was anything else in the chat here before we let everybody go. But Kush says that he loves Haley. So good call out there by Phil. Big Ross saying he'll take a closer look at Ty this week, but the outright numbers are ridiculous for a guy that has never won. Exactly about what Brian was saying there. And then it'll be interesting to really see what happens. Brian said it's a nice hedge off of Busch. So, boys, I mean, this is it's always good talking some good NASCAR, future stuff. Anything from the playoff perspective as the series obviously goes to that next week? Anything that you're keeping a close eye on going into Atlanta, or how are you kind of approaching the playoffs? Just real quick.
Nothing I'm really keeping my eye on except for, I think it'll be a fun race to watch for sure when we're watching this cut line this weekend. If something happens to Gibbs or Buescher, a lot's going to need to happen to Truex, but these guys like Bubba can pop here. Chastain has in the past. I mean, it'll be a lot of fun watching that battle. So looking forward to that. I hope that Buescher, obviously for my betting sake, has a great day. So definitely rooting for Buescher. That's what I'll be watching heading into the race. Buescher and Blaney now to beat Kyle Busch. That'll probably make my weekend.
Okay, there you go. Phil, what about you? Anything you're looking for in particular or, going in even next week as the playoffs begin?
Kind of just taking inventory of like my futures and seeing how they're looking. Like I have a nice future on Reddick to make the top 4 at like plus 350 or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
That's decent compared to what it is now. I've got a over 1.5 for Logano that's still out there that needs to be done. I don't know how I feel about that. But I also think, like I said before, Atlanta next week, I really do believe that we're going to see who misses the playoffs this race. And I'm immediately looking at some of those guys to win Atlanta. Like it just sometimes that's how it works. We've seen it in the Cup Series, and we just saw it in the Truck Series. So that's kind of just poetic justice, or the opposite of that. So that's kind of how we're starting off the playoffs, looking to how to play Atlanta, is guys out for revenge.
I like it. How can everybody support you, Phil, and what you're doing and the show and everything? Then we'll let you get out of here so you can finish your draft. So how can everybody support you?
Yeah, you can give me a follow on Instagram and X at Full Tank Phil, and Full Tank with Phil's the podcast. Let me know what you think on a week-to-week basis. See if you're riding. See if you have any thoughts that go opposite. I love to talk shop, and making sure we have the race day card put together well. So, let me know what you think, and appreciate you guys. I'll be on, by the way, on the Through the Gears podcast with with Tino tomorrow. So give that a look as well.
Yep. And how about you, Ryan? How can everybody support you?
Wintherace.info for everything, betting and DFS related. Bunch of stats, bunch of cool stuff, cool people in the Discord. Come check it out. Wintherace.info. We're doing half off your first week or month through the end of the year. So any week or month you want to join, half off for that first week or month. Wintherace.info. I'll be on the Hot Pass with Eric tomorrow. So going on there tomorrow night.
I like
Wonder
it.
if he'll spill the beans.
2 names that you will be hearing about a lot over the next 10 weeks. So really cool that both of you said those 2 gentlemen. So really cool there. Make sure you guys are following. I put it in the chat. Make sure you're following Ryan. Make sure you're following Phil, IBT as well, on YouTube, on Twitter, everywhere. And for me, you can follow me at Derek Yoder _ on X. Follow NASCAR Betting Preview Show wherever you get your podcast. YouTube is a huge help to what we're doing here with In Between Media, and just the support of the show as we get ready for the next 10 weeks. It's a pivotal thing, not only for creators like Phil and Ryan and so many people coming on and doing the show, and guests coming on and having a good time, but it's also really important as we do it together with the NFL network or markets and doing different things there. So a lot of good collaboration, good conversations can be had. So really excited for that. Looking forward to Darlington, boys. And, when we come back this time next week, we'll be talking about the playoffs in Atlanta.